We're bringing you boots on the ground insight from the ranchers, conservationists, and partners who are helping to preserve the best of the Golden State for generations to come. Join the California Rangeland Trust for inspiring stories of resilience, innovation, and hope as we get tuned into the land.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Tune Into the Land. I'm Michael Delbar, CEO of the California Rangeland Trust and your host. At the Rangeland Trust, our mission is inspired by the dedication of landowners who look beyond themselves to safeguard their working landscapes for future generations. To date, we've partnered with 95 ranching families across California, conserving over 400,000 acres of rangeland. As part of honoring this commitment, we present the Conservationist of the Year award to an individual or family who exemplifies volunteer conservation as private landowners. This year, we're proud to recognize Ernest Bufford of the Bufford Ranch in Kern County for his dedication to the land and protection of its history. In 2013, Ernest collaborated with the Rangeland Trust to complete his first conservation easement over 500 acres in the Walker Basin. Since then, we've partnered with him 2 more times, bringing the total conserved area to over 900 acres, protecting 6 different ecosystems, a variety of plant and animal species, and so much more. But Ernest's contributions extend far beyond land preservation. Through partnerships with the local Kauai Sioux tribe and the California State University Bakersfield Biology and Archaeology departments, Ernest has unearthed and preserved artifacts dating back more than 3,200 years. His deep respect for the land and its history drives his stewardship, allowing him to honor those who lived there before him. In today's episode, we dig into Ernest's journey into ranching, his conservation efforts, and some of the incredible stories he's gathered from his time on the land. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Ernest Bufford to the podcast.
Thank you.
You have a very unique and exciting career, and leading up to today, tell us a little bit more about who Ernest Bufford is.
Well, I grew up in law enforcement, did 30 years on the California Highway Patrol, and 28 of those 30 years I was an undercover investigator and just a regular investigator. Then I went on, got into the ranching business, and as I did, I was with the a special deputy U.S. Marshal, and I was sitting up in the judge's chambers one day, and he said, well, instead of going to all these other ranches, why don't you buy your own ranch?
Because you were hunting a lot, right, on these other ranches?
Yes, throughout the state and throughout the United States, really, and Canada. So he had a Times newspaper article, and it had, I think it was close to 2,000 acre ranch for sale in Walker Basin, California, which is in Kern County. It's kind of a lawless area.
It's a beautiful area.
Yes, it is. It is. And so I contacted the owners that inherited the ranch. They lived in the west end of the San Fernando Valley, I think. And it was advertised as a big exclusive owned property in this beautiful, secluded area. And they'd broken it up into, well, the Bake property is what I went in on first, which was 330 acres. But the people that inherited the property, they didn't know it had all these springs and creeks on it. So then I went in, I bought the 330 acres, and the rest of the parcels it was parceled out into, well, my neighbor's property was parceled out into 620 acres, and he has hot springs on it. So that was the first property I went to look at, because I said, well, how many people in the world really, have hot springs? And I went there, and he beat me to it. And so then I picked up the 330 acres. Next year, I said, well, I want those wet meadows and the year-round creek. So I talked my kids into putting up some money and bought that property. And I think that brought it, 330, 435, up to 500 and something acres. Then I started looking into putting it into a conservation easement. And that's when I started calling around. And this ranch. I used to hunt on 18,000 acres up in out of east of Paso Robles. He broke me into a lot of cow industry and hunting.
Okay.
And also the USDA NRCS portion of the USDA. After I bought that 330 acres back in 2000, I think in one. Then the following year, like I said, I picked up that other 150 acres.
And that's how you got into the ranching business.
Yes. Also, I since 1972, I used to be a part-time patrolman and a backup guide on this real large other California ranch. And I picked up a lot of the what to do with the cows and run them and what to do with them. And that's what got me started also. And as I mentioned before, other ranches throughout California, I was on, and Wyoming and Utah and Idaho, British Columbia, just a lot of other ranches. And I would pick up on because they would help them out on the ranches with the cattle business.
So you leased the ranch, the grazing rights to the ranch to Rispa Billard. So Rispa was on the podcast several months ago.
I saw it.
She's a kick, very energetic young lady. And so she loves the ranch probably as much as you do. It's a beautiful place.
Well, her father and Rispa, he's the one, he met me at a meeting. I think it was the Black Rancher and Farmers seminar up down in Fresno. And he hooked up with me and wanted to lease. He said, you shouldn't, you're getting up in age. Maybe you should lease out the land. And so he and Rispa are a participant in grazing, which means I can graze my own stuff too. All
right. What is your favorite part, do you think, so far of owning such a special ranch like that?
The history of it, the artifacts. But every time you go out there, though, you step back into history.
You have 6, if I remember right, 6 different ecosystems on that ranch, right?
Yes, but don't ask me to name them. I'd have to read them off. But 6, and they said if they looked harder, they could probably find 7 in that small area, because there's another big ranch up there. It may have maybe 5 ecosystems. But my small ranch they found 6, like you said, and they said if they looked hard enough, they might find 7, because it just funnels down into that type of area.
How would you describe them, the different areas?
What is it? Woodland, riparian, desert. I'm trying to remember what I could see. They did an article in Minority Landowners, and they listed all the different ecosystem plants that are there. So there's quite a few, and all the time we find others, and some of them are not endangered but rare. I think one of them was the Mariposa. The striped Mariposa lily was one. And then my neighbor who got that 620, he keeps talking about, we had, what is that, evasive weed, star
thistle?
Yeah, star thistle. So USDA, they came out, they said, that's not star thistle, that's a native plant, but that's not star thistle. And they also said that this clump grass is a native also. I think it's called clump grass. And then there's, like I said, there's many different types of plant life there.
Well, it's having the honor of being on the ranch with you. And I'll tell you, it's some pretty steep terrain, kind of rocky in areas. You're a tough man to keep up with. You climb those rocks like it's flat ground, just all over the place.
You have to.
And I was catching my breath just trying to keep up with him.
No, I think you were helping me up some of those.
I don't know, but it's really such a cool ranch. I mean, you've got the creeks that are running year round, and I wouldn't have thought that if you had asked me if you had water year round up there, I wouldn't have thought you did, but it's really pretty cool.
It is. And I've talked to this one guy up there. He builds fence, and he's moving now because he said it's too tough of a job for him now, building that fence up and down those hills. But he grew up there, and he'd never been back into my side of the property. They always went off somewhere lower. And he said he didn't know a lot of that stuff was up there either. And just hiking around, I found all this stuff, like you said, springs and creeks and ponds, just some of everything.
So you reached out to the Rangeland Trust to help you conserve the ranch. What drew you to the Rangeland Trust?
Well, first, George Work, he asked me, did I know anything about the NRCS and their different programs? And so he turned me on to NRCS, USDA. And the first person they sent out there was Jay Lee, I think it was. And that's when he worked the field. And he walked the area and found that was naming all these different plants, and he said, "You think that's a willow? That's mule fat, which is a type of willow, I guess." And most people would call it a willow. And then when he left, he said, "You didn't know what you were buying when you bought this place, did you?" And I remind him of that now when I see him, and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry I said that, I said, "No, don't feel sorry. You enlightened me, you got me really interested." And he said, "Did you ever think about putting this in a conservation easement?" Which I knew nothing about. And like I said, I've been in all these other ranches all over. And I never heard anything mentioned about a conservation easement to retain it for, as somebody corrected me, I said for a lifetime. They said no, until eternity. And so then every time I come up with a project, when Jay Lee would come in, and it was the Bakersfield office then that would come out. Now I'm in the Lancaster district. But they would close down the office just to come out there and see what they could find. And then this cowboy was up there, and he did roads and cowboy work and stuff. One day he's standing there and he goes, "Oh, there's some obsidian." What's obsidian? And he picks up this, black shiny type rock. He said, "Oh, this came from up in, I think, Mono or Bishop or something like that, because they don't have any obsidian around here. So they had to transport it down here." So his father, who used to keep the law up there, I guess, now I do it.
Well, yeah, when we were up there, if I remember right, it was your neighbors called it Ernieville.
Yeah, Ernieville.
And you were the mayor of Ernieville.
Yep. They came up with a couple of them.
So you put the ranch. You came to us, and we were able to help you conserve the ranch.
Yes.
What happened next? Because you didn't stop there.
No. Okay. I don't know if you know Reed. Is it Tollison? I think he's the one that set up conservation easement in the Kern River Valley. He said, "Well, you have too much land for us, but there's this new organization called California Rangeland Trust, and you ought to call them and see what they can do." That's what I did. And the first person from Rangeland Trust to come to the ranch was Andy Mills.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I didn't hear from him for like a year because I think it's so hard to find up in there, I guess. They went to somewhere else and they said they weren't interested really. I guess it was wasteland kind of. But a year later, your organization, they were trying to reach me, and finally I just decided to call and see, because I'd gone through other organizations and stuff, and I was too far west for Wildlife Nature Conservancy because they were trying to run from Tejon Ranch to all through there, and I was too far west. So I called California Rangeland Trust again, And they said, we've been trying to reach you, for a year. And that's how I got in touch with Rangeland Trust.
Okay. Well, we were successful in doing the easement on the ranch, but then what did you do after you got the initial easement? Because you didn't stop there.
No, I found out about an adjacent property. We call it the 151 parcel pasture, and there was the person that liked to call it Ernieville. She was a realtor up there, so she said, "Well, let me see what I can do," So I met the guy. He was out of Tehachapi, and he bought the property to run cattle on. So I talked to him and did a 1051?
1031 exchange.
1031 exchange. So I used that money I got from the 500 and something acres, bought that, and I bought another 100, and I think it was 3 different parcels. It was like 2 20-acre parcels and a 70-acre parcel above me. That way, I was fronting more of that BLM behind me, which is 7,300 acres. So I put the 151 and those other 3 parcels and did the 1031?
1031 exchange. So when
yes.
the proceeds you get from selling an easement, you can transfer that into the purchase of an additional property, and then that way you avoid the tax liability that would come with if you didn't do that.
Right.
So it's a great way to keep all your money. It's your money.
Yes.
And keep that and then parlay that into an additional ranch is what you've done.
Yes. So then I went to the third, didn't I?
Yep.
Okay, to the third phase. And I picked up another almost 70 acres, I think, that has a double wide on it. And you sent your people out there to research it. And I thought it was just some hillside with stuff, but they came back and they said, "Oh no, this is nice. We found all the evidence of certain species of this and that, and kangaroo rats, and just a bunch of stuff like that." So that was the third easement I put on it, which hooks on to me, which brings the total to about 900 and over 900 acres.
Right. So you aren't stopping there, though. You're on a mission to protect the basin.
Yes.
Tell us what your next thoughts are.
Okay, I'm going to try and pick up this. They call it Ceola Zoo, and it borders me on 2 sides, or I border them on 2 sides, vice versa. And I hear it was a site where they had one of the Olympic equestrian areas where I guess they practice there or something, because they're over there now. You see some for the horses to jump and go around like barrel racing and so forth. So I'm trying to get that.
Okay. Well, besides conserving the land itself, the history that's on the Bufford Ranch is amazing. You have found so many historical artifacts that as we walked across there, you found evidence of the obsidian that you mentioned and arrowheads. I think I've looked down and found one too for you there.
Yes, you did.
You found grave sites, Native American grave site, and the really interesting story about the young lady that's buried there. And everything from arrowheads to pictographs.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the Native American history of the ranch and what you have found there.
Okay, well, like I said, it all started with that one cowboy finding that obsidian. So then I called UC Bakersfield, and they sent Dr. Yobi, I think his name was a professor there. They came out with 15 students. So we found beads and numerous, like you say, gossip rocks with the grinding holes and everything. And they found 2 remains, one of a child and one of a female. And they carbon dated it and came back to 107307 AD. They dated it back that far ago.
Wow.
And Then there was something else I found out there. They called it, I think, a pinto point. And they said it was so long ago, they said they didn't even knew that people were up there then. And they wrote all this up and then gave me a big book on their study. And then we were digging somewhere else, right below what they call slicks. I learned all kind of stuff about archaeology. Matter of fact, my brother said, "Shoot, you're not a hunter anymore. Shoot, you're identifying plants and and looking for artifacts. You're no true hunter anymore."
Yeah, no, you're a rancher now.
Yes.
So you mentioned gossip rocks. What does that mean? What are gossip rocks?
That's where the Native American women used to sit around and grind their corn acorns and wheat and everything. And that's how those holes got into these granite type rocks. And so once you get into it, you can more or less survey a area and say, I bet there's some gossip rocks over there. It looks like something where they would go and grind their, and it would be also close to a water source. That's how, too, I would know that a creek was running through there years ago, because they got the gossip rocks where they ground this wheat and acorns, and they call them gossip rocks because the women would sit around and just talk about the men, probably. And that's why I find a lot of artifacts too. You go there and you find where they would come in a little bit below the grinding rocks. You might find where the men would go, and that's where you go and you look for maybe beads they would drop, or unwanted projectile. They're not arrowheads, because a lot of they call them projectile points instead of arrowheads, because a lot of them, it was before bow and arrow.
Oh.
So those you might find where they discarded one that maybe broke or something like that. But the gossip rocks are where the women would go to sit around and talk as they're grinding the acorns and the wheat.
Okay. So you keep those holes, those grinding holes, clean. Why do you do it?
Well, Luther, the Kauai Sioux elder, he told me, when you find these, and if you know where they are, just brush them out a little bit, because that's respect for the people that were here. And so that's why I do it. And also so I can find them again, because sometimes they get filled up with, leaves but you can kind of tell a little bit, because you can see a little depression or stuff. And next thing you know, you're over there sweeping it and brushing it, or using your hand to clean them out. And you say, oh, shoot, I found another site.
How's it feel when you find something like that? I mean, you took us by the young lady, the child with I believe it was a snake bite that they determined that killed her.
Yes.
And seeing a grave site such as that, and knowing that it's that area around it in itself is protected.
Yes. I'd forgotten all about that. I showed you that. But there was a story going around that the daughter of one of the Joe Walker mine, the head guy at the Joe Walker mine, his daughter was snake bit, and they found her dead, clutching a rattlesnake that she had strangled to death, I guess. And she had 5 bites. And so they said the grave is, it was just storytelling. But I found the grave that I took you to. And that was the grave site. And you could see the hand-worked iron that they had put around it. I think there were some spirals and stuck in the ground, and somebody, I guess, been pulling them up and throwing them as spears or something. But I found a couple of them. And when I found a couple of those spears, there was a rattlesnake stretched out in front of the grave. And now, remind you, she was killed by snake bite. There was a rattlesnake, like he was guarding the grave. And I went down to pick up one of the spears, and there he was, a 5-foot rattlesnake just laying out there, never moved, never coiled, nothing.
Oh, wow.
And I said, shoot, I guess he's guarding the grave, and found a bunch of other artifacts in there too, the cans and bottles and everything from when the mining days that Joe Worker mine was supposed to be one of the biggest producers in gold, but they couldn't stop the tunnels from flooding. And I think there's some people deceased now way a mile underground somewhere.
So you were hiking one day with a nephew, if I remember right, and he came across a pretty cool pictograph.
Yes.
Explain what that was and how that feel.
Okay, well, he came to me. I'm sitting up in the house, and he says, Uncle Ernie, I didn't come up here just to sit around. Let's go look around, and find some stuff. So I said, okay, I got a cool place to take you where these old miners had been. And I found out later from people, they call it a Chinese kitchen. You ever hear that? Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. A Chinese kitchen, and I found some old china. I guess it was before paper cups and paper plates. I found broken old china back there and everything. So I was going to take him there so we could look for some more of that type of artifacts. And he said, no, I want to go look at this monument rock. It sticks straight up in the air. And I said, oh, no use going over there, because we walked around there with the Kauai Sioux elder. And he said this would be something, that they would have put pictographs on. And we didn't find anything. And here my nephew comes back talking about, Uncle Ernie, I found some, he said, hieroglyphics. And I said, no, boy, that's in Egypt. So he said, no, I did. I said, oh, I was calling him stuff under my breath, a simple thing, I said, he probably just sees some lichen or either some runoff from rain coming down the rock. So we go over there, and he's taking me. It's right over here, and he's walking across a downed pine tree leading to this big back of this rock, and he goes, look. And I said, God darn, you are the man. I take back all that I was saying under my breath. And so I called up the Kauai Sioux elder, who bordered me on the south. And I said, Luther, you want to keep cutting firewood, or you want to come up and see this pictographs or something like that? He said, I'm on my way. So he comes over there. I meet him down there at the gate. And we go back there, and he says, I said, there it is right there. I said, we walked all around this and didn't even see it. And he said, yeah, he said they saw an eclipse. That's what that is. It's two moons. You saw it, didn't you? Yeah, two moons. One is covered in some type of blue, and the other one is clear with, all the little sun type rays around both of them. And he said they saw an eclipse. He said that's probably 2,500 years old or more. And it's fading out now too. I'm trying to find some kind of way to save it. But that's how we found that. And I called the archaeologists out again, and they came and verified it, wrote it down.
It's lasted a long time.
Yes.
So Luther gave you something special and a very special name.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what that was.
Okay, the first remains we found, because I found a third on my own, looking for the horses. They did a ceremony and to rebury the remains that the archaeologists found. And so Luther did a ceremony, Native American ceremony, with the four elements of life: with water, wind, earth,
fire,
and fire. Okay, so there were four people there, and he gave me the name I don't know if I'm saying it. Still, I don't know if I'm saying it right. Togasui, which means tall one, and so that was very special too, like you said. And he gave my nephew a name too, which I can't think of now. And matter of fact, that nephew passed on, and but I have it written down somewhere. But he gave him a special name for finding the pictographs, and what it meant was two sons.
Oh, that's quite an honor.
Yes.
Why is it important to you to protect lands like the Bufford Ranch and the artifacts, the history that you've described, the grazing, all these what we call ecosystem services benefits, and then the historical and cultural resources. Why is that so important to you? Because I know it is, but why is that so important to you to protect across the state?
Because you'll never get it back when it's gone. And God's out of the business of making land. You know, we live on this one earth, and once it's gone, it's gone. And prime example was coming out of Sacramento, coming over Donner's Pass, 0 to 2 miles an hour driving time, and looking over to the sides, all these big condos, I guess, or apartment buildings or something building off of there, and that I never saw before. You know, we used to come over there back and forth, you know, a lot back in the older days. And like I said, once it's gone, you're not going to get it back. So that's why it's important to me to retain it. And so far, I think I have 16 different parcels up there that could be probably cut up into 2.5 acre parcels. So right there, say the whole city being developed up there. And people are coming left and right too, and splitting up their properties and just destroying the ecosystem.
So last year, we were up there filming our documentary, You Just Can't See Them from the Road. And you were one of the stars of that documentary. In fact, you open it up, and the first scene is you walking across the ranch. So folks can see that, and they keep an eye out for You Just Can't See Them from the Road. We'll be showing that film hopefully quite a bit in 2025. And so folks can get a glimpse of the beautiful Bufford Ranch and you hiking up these hills in the film. What was that like, filming that and seeing that final result?
I didn't know it was going to be make such an impact, because people have been coming up to me. I don't know why this one person said he brought tears to his eyes, and I don't know what did I do or show you that would bring tears to somebody's eyes.
It's pretty special.
Was it really?
The film's special, but then what you're doing makes it even more special. Ernest, as you shared, in total, you have acquired, and then with our partnership, conserved over 910 acres in the Walker Basin. You are definitely a man on a mission with a goal to not only own that land, but protect it from development. So to recognize your efforts, we awarded you the 2024 Conservationist of the Year Award. We did that at our Landowner Appreciation Luncheon, which we just held in early December at the California Cattlemen's Association's annual meeting. That Conservationist of the Year Award recognizes volunteer conservation by private landowners.
Yes.
That's a pretty coveted recognition, and it's not one that we hand out willy-nilly. That's well-deserved. And so congratulations on receiving that award this year.
And I thank you very much. But you're the ones that should be getting the award because you make it all happen.
Well, we can't do it without our landowner partners, and you're very special. And it's the work you're doing, and other ranchers like you, protecting these lands and all those benefits that come with them, that open space, that wildlife habitat, the historical and cultural history, we're just the facilitators. You are the one doing that work and conserving that land. And for that, sir, you are to be greatly commended.
I thank you, but couldn't have done it without you. And you are a smart group of people running the organization and caring, and you get the job done. You really do. I'm so glad that Reed turned me on to California Rangeland Trust. And I think that was, what was the first year that you, 1990?
98 when we were
98. Created, and I came in, my first deal was 2013.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
No, we're glad that you found us.
Yes, I am. And I pass the word on all the time. I'm trying to get people all the time, to conserve their land and to contact you, telling them that, your cattlemen, you know what it's all about. It's not just to, because some people are a little leery of conservation easements. And I tell them what the California Rangeland Trust is not like that. These are cattle people. They're looking out for you first, and and conserving the land.
Well, thank you. We those words from you mean a lot to us and extremely appreciated, but you make it easy.
One other thing, too, I ran into somebody today. He said I inspired him to do things the way I'm doing it. And he's going to try and get add on to his but neighboring properties, you know. And he said, you really inspired me. He told me that 2 or 3 times today.
Wow. That shows what impact you're making.
Mm-hmm. Glad I make a good impact sometime.
It's a tremendous one, and we're very grateful to have you as one of our landowner partners.
Same here.
So Ernest, thank you for taking some time today and visiting with us and telling your story and describing just a really just gorgeous ranch that is going to stay that way forever, thanks to you and your conservation efforts and ethic. And thank you for being a valued partner with the California Rangeland Trust.
And thank you for being the Rangeland Trust.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Tune Into the Land. With this episode, we're closing the gate on an incredible 3rd season of the podcast. On behalf of everyone at Rangeland Trust, we want to express our gratitude for your support and for joining us each month to celebrate the work we do. As we gear up for Season 4, we'd love to hear from you. Share your thoughts by leaving a comment or review. Let us know what you enjoyed, what topics you'd like us to explore, and even suggestions for future guests. And be sure to hit that follow button so you can be notified when the next season drops. If you're interested in supporting our mission, visit our website, rangelandtrust.org. You can make a donation or explore the Get Involved tab to learn more about upcoming events and projects. From the Rangeland Trust family to yours, we wish you a joyful and safe holiday season. Until next time, thank you for listening.